and old age, on life and death, on breathing. Imagine. So you get the idea. Aristotle is interested in using this categorical approach to describing everything. Why? Because all true statements have to be one or actually we combine them, but have to be one of these types of statements. So if you think about the kind of statement that we might ask, is the snow outside? He gave us, right? When we think about that statement, what kind of statement would this have been? I would classify it as an A statement. By the way, the A, the I, the E, and the O have a code. Where do they come from? The Latins gave them, the Latin-speaking folks gave them that, and that's because these are both affirmative, saying that the subject set is in the predicate set, or the subject set, at least some of it, is in the predicate set. So it's affirming, right? So affirmo, these are both affirmo, so A and I come from affirmo, right? These are negative, saying that no, there's no member that's S that's also in P, right? So that's denying, and so nego. So the word nego is what gives us the E and the O, right? So that's the vowels out of affirmo and nego, right? So, for everything you pick that's out there, it has in the set of things that is covered with snow, right? And that's what we did when she gave us that statement that there's snow outside. We all were able to correspond that statement with the facts, right? Pretty easy. There are some hard ones though. For example, I've had trouble convincing students that this is a cup. And some will say, no, it's not a cup, it's a mug. No, it's a, what's it? You know, it keeps everything cold. A thermos, yeah. But then I would argue, well, but all of those are kinds of cups, right? So this is a cup. Everyone agrees this is a cup? That's okay? How about this one though? This is harder. This is a good cup. True or false?
It depends on who's viewing it.
There you go. There's a problem with that now. All I did was add one adjective by giving it the characteristic of good cup, because now it of course becomes an opinion. So we might not all agree. In fact, it might look like a good cup, but it isn't. It leaks all over the place. Even though it has the lid on it and it's closed. But notice, it wasn't very good, was it? I think we put it in the dishwasher once. Probably not a good thing. But, in a manner of speaking, if what you want is a cup that, like you can have at work and you won't spill water on your keyboard, not a good thing. Not the best cup for that. So I'll just leave it at this and say that when we have a value statement where we add an opinion like that, even though it's a declarative statement, it turns out not to be true or false according to our contemporary way of viewing things. We instead will say that it's neither true nor false, because it's an opinion. We can't get everybody to agree on it. And by the way, when we talk about lying, we blame he's lying, or maybe she's lying even. I don't know that there are any women don't lie, right? But there are men that clearly lie. And I know you're all thinking at least of one in particular. But in any case, we might say, that's a lie. Well, actually, when we think about what most people are talking about when they're saying so-and-so is lying, it turns out that they're giving an opinion about something. They're using a value statement. This is bad. Well, we might disagree with that person and feel like, no, it's not bad. But in that case, in our contemporary sense, we're not going to say that that statement was true or false. It's an opinion. It's a value statement. And value statements, strictly speaking, cannot be either true or false. And that makes it not a lie. So we really shouldn't degrade a person's character by saying they're lying to us. Because what we really ought to be saying instead is we have a difference of opinion with that person. You can imagine that that's kind of a nicer way to talk about our disagreement with that person. They say this, but we disagree. I think this is a different approach to it, right? But so, if you go through it, now the biggest thing we'll have are some statements seem to be true or false that don't fit this square. But those usually are compound statements. So for example, if I say, this is a magic marker, or this is not a magic marker, right? Okay, well this is a magic marker, that's true, no problem. Notice I'm not saying it's a good one, especially since it's almost out of ink, right? But it is a magic marker, no problem. But then in a compound statement where I say, or, this is not, God bless you, this is not a magic marker, notice that that whole statement is true, necessarily true. Because by using the disjunct or, I'm saying either this or this. And since this is a magic marker and this is not a magic marker, are contradictory, one or the other has to be false, has to be true, and the other one has to be false. But since the or says either one or the other, but not both, in this particular case, then it's clear that that statement can never be false. This is a magic marker. Or, this is not a magic marker. Notice, that's also true, right? Because it's not a magic marker, and that's one of the sides of that. So, that's interesting. We get compound statements that can be built on these, but if you're doing code, for computers, right? You're basically writing these kinds of statements, telling the computer if this, then that. Which, by the way, is a compound statement saying if the antecedent, which is one of these statements, then the consequent, which is one of these statements, right? So notice true, false, true, false. So it's actually pretty easy when you think about it this way. What does get difficult for us when we talk about the true, I'll resort to Juliet again. Oh, Romeo, be true. Clearly, she's not suggesting he be a true statement. So we obviously have other expressions where we use the word true. I know this book to be true. That's Harry Potter book 7. No, that would be silly, right? That's total fiction, fantasy, etc., right? But you've heard people hold up a book and say, I know this to be true. Well, there are true statements in it for sure, and false statements too, but probably lots of other kinds of statements as well, depending, right? Are they historical? Are they poetic? Are they telling us a story? Stories, I think I've mentioned that stories are neither true nor false. What do you think? Does that make sense? I mean, there's statements in stories. He found a ring. What's this? Put it in his pocket. That's true. Those both were true. Later on, it becomes important. What's in my pockets, right? That's Bilbo, right? that's not a fair, Wurzel. What's Wurzel in English? I forget. Puzzle? No. We're arguing over riddle. Thank you. Sometimes German gets in my way. Sorry. Wurzel. By the way, Der Hobbit is my favorite version of The Hobbit, even though it's just a translation. But Gollum is out there going, "Mein Schatz," instead of "my precious." It's just hilarious for me. It won't be hilarious for you, but. So narratives turn out to be neither true nor false. Although statements in them may be true or false, etc. Clearly, a Vorpal sword doesn't exist, right? Neither does a lightsaber, right? No. And by the way, one point of the Jabberwock poem that we talked about briefly is you can make up new words, but I forgot to ask if you can make up new grammar. Imagine trying to make up new grammar. You asked me if it's easier to learn other languages after you've already studied one, and I said yes, but actually what would be important there is the relationship they have, right? Because if you're studying one of the Romance languages and you've had Latin, which I did, right? The hardest thing is keeping them straight. Is that Spanish or Italian? Because they're so similar, you can't remember which language you're in, basically. So it's easier to learn one that's on the tree. And the Army gave me a big book that's all the languages. Here's all the trees. Here's all the relationships. Page on each of the languages, that they had in there, and so on. I should bring it in and show it around. But in any case, because I stole it, the Army gave it to me, and I kept it. I didn't give it. Well, they didn't tell me to give it back. In fact, they told me, take this to your next duty station, and I did. And I got here, and they didn't have a place for it, so they told me, take this home. And it stayed there ever since. That's kind of fun. Okay. Let's move on, because Aristotle gives us this categorical thinking process. By the way, if a true statement is going to be one of these types of statements, and you can go through and make up all kinds of examples. If you read this particular article, you'll notice that it moves on to the contemporary version, because we at a certain point, Bertrand Russell and Gottlob Frege and others are going to invent a new language based on our languages. They're trying to clear up our language so that you can be more clear when you're expressing yourself. So they created a language that basically has become the various computer code languages that we have today. And it is interesting how that actually teaches us how the language works. So the modern revised square, I'll just give you the basic problem here. When you look at Aristotle's square, and by the way, this is a contemporary model of his square. He never actually drew a square like this in his texts at all. And by the way, when you look at other Greek texts like the Elements by Euclid, it's mathematics. But notice you don't see numbers in their original text because they didn't have what we use today as numbers, obviously, because those we call Arabic numbers. Yes? 1, 2, 3, etc. Those Arabic numbers are called Arabic numbers because the Arabs stole them from India. But we never fix the name. We never go back and fix the word. We leave it, they're Arabic numbers. Well, they were stolen from India because India had them. Who invented zero? no one was expecting that question, right? That's almost as bad as the Spanish Inquisition, I guess. Which is another joke, but no one got that either. That's all right. When was zero invented?